We're glad you're here. Thanks
Link.
for. Hope everything is going well. How are you doing?
Things are good. Yeah. Exciting times. We're getting Eureka off the ground. We submitted our first successful mainnet transactions last week. And so now we're just cleaning everything up and then basically getting ready to go live very soon with the whole like front end support and integration partners and everything like that.
Nice. Yeah, we're very glad that you could join us today. I mean, we just started this session like 10, 15 minutes ago, and we're talking a little bit about kind of the airdrops that are now, coming into Cosmos when Initiator was just announced. And like the C2 Plus community here, I think here we're always having these more like personal conversations as well, like whenever we do these type of AMAs. So we actually collected a bunch of questions from the community, from our members. And yeah, I think Sepmos is going to lead most of those questions. We're also going to, respect your time. So we'll try to get through it in like 20 or 30 minutes. And we'll also post clips of that conversation on Twitter in the coming days as well. So yeah, but I think first off, I wanted to start off by basically getting kind of, getting to know you more, because I think a lot of people are now familiar with you kind of, being part of the new leadership in Cosmos alongside Barry as the co-CEOs for Interchain Labs. I think a lot of the viewers or listeners here today, they also, have watched the stream we did in December. They probably watched a lot of the content and all your tweets that you pushed out over the past weeks and months. But I think it would be good to maybe get a little bit more context on yourself, your journey, how you even got into kind of crypto, Cosmos, and what really got you hooked in the ecosystem.
Yeah, happy to. Also, everybody. Yeah, my background, I sort of like colloquially refer to myself as like a crypto baby. I got into like mining when I was really young, around 12 or 13. I found out about Bitcoin through my cousin, who was a truck driver, and bought like a couple thousand Bitcoin at the time when it was like a couple cents. It's funny, he sold all of that Bitcoin once it hit like $2 each. And I remember he was so happy because he bought himself like a new, like really beat up truck with like, I think 3,000 or 4,000 Bitcoin. And then he left one Bitcoin in his wallet that he forgot about until 2023. And then he sold the one Bitcoin to buy himself a brand new Tesla. So it was incredible change. And that was his gas money, like that he left in his wallet. But he was really into mining. I was a pretty weird kid, and so I got into mining too. I started to help build like custom ASIC miners back in about 2013 or 2012 even, for like Litecoin, because there weren't any ASIC miners on the market. There were only miners that were generalized for Bitcoin, so they required custom hardware. Fast forward in 2016, as soon as I graduated high school, I went out to San Francisco. I got into the Ethereum scene there. It's crazy to have smart contracts for the first time. And I helped build a marketplace called Valuables. I was the co-founder and CTO. And Valuables sold tweets as NFTs very early on in Ethereum's lifetime. Dorsey tweet for like 3 million, which was really exciting. I mean, it was a time it seemed like some crazy thing. Now, of course, like we see stuff like that all the time. Yeah, then I studied sort of in college finance and engineering. Went into quantitative finance at Bridgewater, which is like the world's largest hedge fund, macroeconomic hedge fund led by Ray Dalio. And then in 2021, that's when I messaged Barry and I was like, "Hey, this crypto thing like is really real, right? Like it's actually happening." Like I know all about it, and I've had a lot of experience in it. Like we should check it out together. So we did that. We built MEV tooling for Skip in the beginning in the Terra ecosystem. It was funny because we started at a hacker house in Terra, which we won, but it lasted 4 weeks, and 2 weeks in Terra collapsed. So the last 2 weeks, no one was there from the TFL side. They all just poof, like disappeared. I don't know where they went. Hopefully ran away. And we were still there though, and we said, that we really got excited about Tendermint, about Cosmos SDK, and we decided that we would stay in the ecosystem. And then so began the journey of Skip, right? Which I don't think I need to get into fully, but it ended with us getting acquired by the ICF. So enough said, I guess.
How and when did you meet Barry, actually? What's your story?
Yeah, I met him the first day of college we lived in a dorm near each other. It was very different back then. Yeah, I think we smoked weed together.
Nice.
So.
That's definitely bonds you guys. Yeah, but how would you describe? Because I think it's very interesting to have like this kind of dual now at this kind of leadership of Interchain Labs. Like, how are you guys kind of, I don't know, separating responsibilities? Is like, would you say like Barry's more, I don't know, like the technical or organizational guy, and like you do more kind of the business and content and marketing and strategizing, or how is the dynamics between you?
Yeah, I mean, my background is in pretty heavy engineering. That's really what I for a long time thought I would do for most of my life. But life had different plans. So now I do mostly marketing, growth, BD, sales is my specialty. So institutional sales, selling to large other companies, selling to governments, selling to liquid funds is a big one for me right now. Getting them to buy Atom and take the investment in Atom, which is going very well. And then Barry's focused more on the internal side. So execution. We joke we're both co-CEOs. He's chief execution officer and I'm chief external officer. So yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I like that. I mean, like selling Atom to liquid funds sounds very interesting. I think we can like maybe touch upon this in this conversation as well. But I think Sepmos, you collected some questions, and I think you were ending your story with the kind of creation of Skip, and I think we have a great kind of entry question for that. So I'll give it over to Sepmos.
Yeah, thanks, and yeah, thank you, Mac, also for joining us here. And as you might have noticed, or like I did some background check on you, and we released this thread. And there you said one thing which really piqued my attention, and I wanted to, really ask you that in person. There you said that you were frustrated with Cosmos back in the days, like all the infighting, all the shenanigans that were going on there. And so Barry and yourself, you had the idea to fund or to launch an alternative Cosmos, and you were pretty close to raise funds and to kick off this new project. But then in the very end, the Interchain Foundation, like they jumped in and started off these conversations. So I wonder, what was it, this alternative Cosmos project that you guys were working on, and what led you then to like decline this massive offer? Because you said you were about to raise at the FTV of 1 billion, and you could have made so much more money than being acquired by the Interchain Foundation. But to me, it seemed that you were so Cosmos aligned and fully locked in the Cosmos vision that you decided to remain here and push this ecosystem further.
Yeah. So going back 6 months ago, Barry and I sat down and we basically said that no matter how successful our products were, and no matter how good what we built was and how great the team was, there's just no way that we could be responsible for growing the entire Cosmos ecosystem, because there were too many like hands in the pot. There was people all over with some kind of vested interest, and we would have needed to spend so long to undo that, and we weren't at the position with Skip where we could do that effectively. Good to see you in person. So we decided to leave. And the idea we had was, well, Cosmos was right in terms of its plan. Like things will become multi-chain. This is just going to be true, right? Like there's never been a counterpoint to this, in my opinion, except for Solana, which is now becoming multi-chain as expected. So we're like, well, if it's the right thesis, but just the wrong execution, we can do execution. So let's just do it fresh, right? And so the code name for that project was Dream at the time. I don't know why it was called Dream. Oh yeah, because when they were writing about the initial computers, they had two ideas. One was the world computer, and then one was the Dream machine, right? The world computer was supposed to be basically a computer that sort of expanded the entire world and had the same state for everything. This was like what Ethereum latched onto, but no one ever built the Dream machine, which was the alternative, which was basically this idea that everyone had their own computer. And like that's how it would expand, which is honestly what Cosmos is pitching, right? When it comes to the next generation of internet versus the world computer. And so we wanted to call it Dream. Yeah, a lot of investors liked it, right? A lot of investors wanted to invest in something like Cosmos, but Cosmos was too toxic. And so the amount of interest we received was massive. Like it would have been one of these like multi-billion-dollar giant, $100 million raised funding rounds. And we had the term sheets in our hand to sign. What happened was basically Buckman came to our office one day and basically said, like, we want you guys to do maintenance for the hub. We, of course, said no. What eventually we said is, if you want us to do anything, you would have to basically put us fully in charge. And you would have to make massive changes to the ICF, including you stepping down, meaning Buckman stepping down. And somehow they agreed to that. And so what happened was about 90% of the ICF left and got replaced. And Buckman stepped down. And we massively reshaped it from the inside. So it runs like a startup. It was spending about $50 million a year. Now it spends $10 million a year. We cut it down by about 80%. And we in-housed all of the different work on top of that. So previously we were contracting out the development of the SDK, Comet, IBC, almost everything. Now we do everything inside, right? Everything is done by Skip engineers in one place, in one office. And so we just like made it a startup, right? From this, like, whatever it was before. I don't really know what to call it, but it definitely wasn't what we needed. And so the reason we did that, even though it was a lot less money, is one, we wanted to build Cosmos, right? Like that's what we wanted to do. We were just going to do it elsewhere. And Cosmos has basically a 6-year head start on building up the ecosystem, the community, the brand equity, the technology. And so it didn't make sense to burn through $100 million to just basically build up like that again. If we could inherit it and basically build on top of it, right? We'd have a huge head start in building what we wanted to build. And I think the crucial thing was, if I raised at $1 billion, I would have to make a $5 billion market cap token minimum, ideally 10, right? That's because that's what you'd have to do to actually return that money. I thought the likelihood of a new token going to 10 billion is a lot less likely than Atom going to like 20 or 50 billion. I thought that was much more possible. And so inheriting a much smaller percentage of Atom for myself, I had to buy out everything that I had at the beginning on the open market. Inheriting a much smaller percentage of that felt like a much higher ROI than trying to grow a new token to like 10 or 10 billion.
Wow, fascinating story, and thanks for sharing all of that. And yeah, Dream, I mean, I love the name, but I'm super, super glad that you guys decided to stay in Cosmos and build back up this ecosystem. I mean, I'm a cosmonaut from pretty much the very beginnings. I shared it lots of time. It was, I guess, 2021. Zito Zone, or like Crypto Zito, he onboarded me to Cosmos through his videos back then, and like there was just everything was flying, DeFi left and right, and the times were good, token prices were going up. But then over time, you just became a little bit frustrated with everything. There was no clear leadership, and other ecosystems caught up in the meantime. But now, yeah, my biggest position was Atom, but over the time I just trimmed it down, and at one point I said I cannot hold it any longer. It doesn't make any sense. There's no product alignment, nothing. But yeah, since Cosmoverse 2024, I'm back in, and now I'm super excited. And yeah, that brings me to like the future of Atom. We heard a lot about IBC Eureka, IBC V2, as you mentioned in the introduction. We just witnessed a historical moment for the Cosmos Hub. The first IBC transaction on ETH mainnet was done. So yeah, why don't you share a little bit more about IBC V2 and like the wrapper that you guys built with the Cosmos Hub? That service called IBC Eureka. What is it for? And yeah, what are your ideas around it?
Yeah. So like behind every successful ecosystem is a successful token, right? It's just the way that crypto works. And the reason for that is not just because like tokens are good. It's because there's like a very technical and specific flywheel that happens when you have a token with a good ecosystem. The flywheel is basically explained as when the token goes up, developers want to come into the ecosystem to get exposure to that token going up. And then as developers come into the ecosystem and build things to get that exposure, it makes the token go up more. right? And so if you have this like value loop, it just like loops on itself faster and faster and faster. And that's what you saw with Solana, right? Like basically they got some builders in that sort of gave use cases to the token. That made the token appreciate. Investors bought into that narrative. The token went up more. All the builders went over, right? Because the builders will go where they see opportunity. They don't care about the market cap. They care about growth, right? They care about the growth in market cap. Atom is at a $2 billion market cap, right? Solana is at, I don't know, the last I checked was like 80, 85. And so we need to connect the pieces to create that flywheel. Because right now, when the ecosystem grows, Atom does nothing, right? Because there's no link. And when Atom grows, it doesn't do anything for the ecosystem because there's no link. And so the first thing to do is connect the links on both places, right? And so Eureka is the first of many products that does that. What Eureka is basically a re-envisioning of IBC that uses the hub as a central router and basically allows for IBC to connect anywhere and is fully vertically integrated with all the rest of Skip's products, meaning the SkipGo, API, IBC.fun, the front end, the relayers and the provers, all the way down to the actual base layer protocol. And it uses the hub as the router for all of it. What that means is, it doesn't look like IBC just going around between different chains. For all of the Eureka flow, it flows through the hub, right? It takes a stop on the hub. There's a lot of reasons why this is actually really good for IBC. I can talk about sort of the n-squared proliferation problem that IBC is facing, which makes it really hard to maintain. But it also means that we can manage all the relaying. We can manage it with high uptime. We can give users a better experience, and we can make it cheaper because with IBC Eureka, you have to do ZK proving. And so you can batch the proofs. You can bring down the cost by 80%, right? So for example, we just did an IBC transaction from Cosmos Hub to Ethereum. You can see the transaction. I posted it. It cost 45 cents in gas. That's how cheap it was, 45 cents. It's going to become even cheaper than that, like down to 10 cents potentially. Like that's crazy. It costs $60 to transfer an XLR. Like it's bananas cheap, right? And it's just as fast. It's going to actually be under 15 seconds once we actually get it integrated into SkipGo, right? And all of that flow goes through the hub, right? So fees, gas, all of that stuff accrues to Atom. And so that's the first product where as IBC grows, it drives the value to Atom, right? Very directly, like number goes up, IBC, number goes up in terms of value accrual to Atom. And it's not the last product either. We're working on a roadmap of like a series of basically cascading products that build on each other that basically align more of the volume and more of the value capture back to Atom, right? Because that is the primary goal, in addition to obviously growing the ecosystem. And the reason why we're doing that is because we don't view Cosmos being able to be successful without Atom being successful, because you need this core token and builder flywheel that powers every other ecosystem that we've seen that has been successful. And so Atom has to be successful, and that will drive more developers, and we'll start the flywheel.
Wow, so many
I have one
good thoughts.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just jump in here before we move to the next topic, because I guess we can talk like an hour about IBC Eureka. There's so much to unpack, but I think one of the kind of challenges that Atom has always faced in the recent years was not only, not like uncoordinated efforts, no product alignment, but also inexisting go-to-market strategies, right? It's just like just building a product without even proving if there's proper demand, without having a comp strategy around it, without having launch partners or something like that. So can you walk us through, maybe if you can also with timelines, would be great. What's the go-to-market for IBC Eureka?
Yeah, so IBC Eureka is functional, but it's not launched, right? So what I mean by that is when we launched SkipGo, like originally with Skip, we launched it with a direct integration into Kepler, right? And with IBC Fun, so people could use it, and we saw immediate traction on day one. That's really the way to launch things, right? That's we've always, and when we launched Slinky, the Oracle, we launched it with dydx, integrating it directly at the time, right? We have a very exciting set of launch partners for IBC Eureka, more exciting than any of those previous products. And so we're going to be doing a huge marketing campaign with, I think it's over 50 partners at this point, that are going to drive volume on day one once they're integrated. And that's going to be in the next like 2 weeks.
Are there some projects that you can already name? I mean, I think we saw like Nillion, like someone from Nillion was commenting, like we're going to use the hub as our router or as our hub. dydx sounds pretty excited about it. Like, are there some projects you can already disclose, or?
I think Nico would be upset if I did, because they're going to come out on the marketing campaign. We put a lot of effort into that announcement, but
Fair enough.
you can rest assured they're going to be good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that I heard
Whatever you're hoping it is, it probably is what I'll say.
Babylon, Nillion, I guess these guys, dydx, they all made some public, not announcements, but like folks from their teams, they all shilled IBC Eureka, so I'm pretty sure that these three folks will be there from the very beginning. But just like to double click once again on IBC Eureka, so does it mean that Skip Go will be renamed, and for all the IBC transactions that we usually do nowadays, we just go to ibc.go and then you send your atom on osmosis to Babylon or wherever. So will this product be changed as well, and do only people that link themselves to IBC Eureka have access to this product, and how does it work in this relationship?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's going to get a little bit technical. So I guess just in terms of the product itself, go.skip.build, which I think a lot of people use for swapping and sending tokens, that product is not going to change. For the user, it will look like a rebrand, right? It will get rebranded as something much more Cosmos native, since Skip is a thing of the past now, so it can't be called Skip Go. But otherwise, the functionality will not change. To be clear, we're not if two chains have a bilateral connection, so like osmosis to Namada, for example, Eureka does not affect that, right? Eureka is the next generation of the protocol that the hub uses to connect to Ethereum and to other chains outside the Cosmos ecosystem. And so those are the transactions that get flowed through the hub, right? In the future, we might see expansion to where the hub is acting as a router for other kinds of assets too. There's a complicated a relatively sophisticated development there where, for example, if the hub starts issuing assets, and it can be basically like Noble, the sort of central point for routing. We don't exactly know what assets we're excited to issue just yet, but we have a couple good options. But for now, it's going to be the new flow, right? The flow to and from Ethereum that is going to be going through the hub. That doesn't mean that the other flows can't capture value for Atom, right? Because we own the front end, Skip Go front end, and which does charge fees, it always has. We can direct some of those fees or all of those fees to Atom value accrual in the future, even when it's not a Eureka route, right? Because Skip Go is much broader than just Eureka.
And how do you guys capture fees there? Since you said you already capture fees, but you don't capture fees on the swaps, is it just on the routing, or how does it work?
We capture fees only on the swaps. So for now, on Skip Go on the API, if you integrate it as a front end and you take fees, we take 20% of those fees. So for example, Kepler, I think, has if you go to their swapping feature, the fee is 0.75, so 75 bips. So we take 20% of that, right? So that's 15%, or 15 bips.
I see.
0.15%.
So that also means, let's say, Osmosis, they don't become a IBC Eureka partner, so it will be impossible for Osmosis users to send, let's say, Osmo over to Ethereum, since they're not in the IBC Eureka alliance, but they still can use Skip Go to go all over the Cosmos chains.
That's not true. Every Osmosis user can use Eureka, as long as they use Skip. If you use Skip Go to transfer your funds and you want to go to Ethereum, the chances are you'll be using Eureka. You'll just take a stop on the hub and then go to Ethereum.
I see. So there is no buy-in. You said you will launch with 50 partners, but it's not that folks, they have to pay something, or they just have to enable the IBC Eureka integration and they're good to go, right? For the instance,
for the launch partners, there is buy. So yeah, this is when it sort of gets into complicated bridging land. So there are many versions of Ethereum on Cosmos, right? There's Axel ETH. There's probably going to be Union ETH. There's probably going to be Worm ETH, maybe Layer 0 ETH, Gravity Bridge ETH. So the question is not okay, I could just allow for, let's call it Hub ETH, right, through Eureka. That you could call that an integration. That's not really an integration, right? Because what's going to happen after that? Okay, you said that you allow it, now what, right? Where's the users? Where's the integrations, where's the flow? Using skip go on your front end means that you are going to be using hub ETH internally. Eureka asset. The launch partners for the Eureka campaign have that. They've integrated the front end, skip go. They will be using the Eureka assets, and they have a purpose for those Eureka assets. And there's something to do with them, right? And that they've, to some degree or another, committed some degree of volume over that bridge already, right? Osmosis is not one of those integration partners, meaning Osmosis has not basically said, oh, we want to replace our versions of ETH with hub ETH at the moment, right? But it doesn't mean that users on Osmosis can't use it still if they wanted to, for example, go to and from Ethereum. Like they can still just IBC to the hub. All you need is an IBC connection to the hub to start it. And then they can go all the way to Ethereum and back, right? It's sort of like, I could say I'm, I don't know, I'm partnered with Ethereum on the Eureka launch. It's like, not really, they didn't do anything. You just integrated with them. When we say launch partner, we mean that they have actually done something to basically, like, they've changed their roadmap and done something on their side to like incentivize this.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're basically creating a new alloyed ETH issued by the hub, just the same way that Osmosis has like the alloyed Bitcoin that unifies the user experience for all the users that want to tap into Bitcoin, or in your case, ETH liquidity in Cosmos, right?
Kind of. We're not creating an alloyed asset though. We're just creating an IBC asset, right? So we're creating direct IBC connection between Ethereum and the Cosmos hub, right? That's really what's happening. And so it's like if I create an IBC connection from Osmosis to the hub, right? When I send over Osmo onto the hub, Kepler calls it Osmo on the hub, right? It's Osmo. Like it's native, right? It's IBC native. We're gonna have the same thing for assets from Ethereum to the hub.
All right. So that sounds a little bit that your guys are gonna compete slightly with Osmosis. Probably there will be a DEX or something launched on the hub soon, or like what are your future ideas? Is there something you can share? You mentioned that you guys are keen to build several products on top of IBC Eureka. So what are some ideas or potential products that might make sense to build on top? Also for other builders that want to come to Cosmos and align themselves with Atom and just contribute to the growth of this new ecosystem.
So IBC, of course, has competitors, right? So any bridge that is not IBC is a competitor. We always view that when IBC is available, it wins. And so we're excited to sort of bring that to the Ethereum side. And I don't think IBC competes with Osmosis. In fact, IBC helps Osmosis in a lot of ways, right? Like getting more flow into the ecosystem means more swapping, means more assets to swap between. And so that we view is actually very complementary to Osmosis. It's not a competing product whatsoever. The question you asked though is, well, what if people did build competing products on the hub that would compete with partners or app chains inside of Cosmos? It's very possible. I would say we are not building those ourselves. So we are not building like a DEX ourselves, and we are not building like anything else like that. But we do want to have at some point, and probably some point very much in the near future, a permissionless way to deploy applications. And there's likely going to be, an example of all of those that get deployed on the hub that are very Eureka native.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the big next steps for the Cosmos Hub to enable permissionless smart contracts. I think now we're speaking like very general, right? Like which VM is going to be deployed, which I think is also not disclosed yet. But I guess is that like coming alongside the Eureka launch, or is that coming shortly after, or what's the kind of timeline for that?
The VM launch is probably going to come after Eureka over the next quarter. So until hopefully by June.
Very bullish. I think Sebmas has like a ton of questions. I don't know how are you on time, Mac? Do you still have like 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah, I have 5 minutes.
Okay. So I want to ask one question. I don't know if Sebmas, we have more time for further questions. But one question I think also a lot of people are wondering about is, what are your thoughts on kind of the Atom economics, tokenomics. You mentioned earlier you're talking to liquid funds. I'm also interested to hear like what is their feedback for such an established, well-distributed, people say it's a cooked coin, there's no hope in Atom, right? I think tokenomics have been debated a lot in Cosmos over the years for Atom. I'm curious to hear your kind of views and also the conversations you're having with liquid funds.
Yeah, so no token is cooked, obviously, even the ones that really seem like they're cooked. I would say the only time a token is cooked is when basically there's no one that is incentivized to drive its value. Like just no one has like the desire or the incentives to do so. And that there is not enough distribution for the token to actually have any kind of like wider appeal. Right? Both of these things are not true for Atom whatsoever. Right? There's a $350 million pretty much all cash treasury that is backing Atom, right? That is dedicated to it from the ICF, and there's a team that is like directly working on it every single day, right? And I would argue a very good team. And so like you don't have that element, right? And that's like more than 99.9% of tokens, right? In terms of the resources. The second thing, the distribution, Atom has incredible distribution. It's held by almost every single VC, right? Like almost everyone bought Atom back in like 2017, 2018. And it actually made a lot of people a lot of money, right? Even at today's levels, right? Because a lot of people bought it when it was sub $1 or sub 50 cents even, right? And so for those people, actually Atom is a very good outcome. Even though obviously it's down from its highs of $40. And so I really just don't think Atom's cooked. Like it's just super unclear to me that it's cooked. I think when it comes to the staking yields, so with every token there's two sides, right? There's supply and there's demand. You can mess with the supply and you can mess with the demand, right? And at any single day, whether Atom goes up or not, just means did more people buy the token than sell it or vice versa. Right? Like on a day-by-day basis. It's a very simple situation, right? And I think people focus too much on the supply side, right? Okay, we should reduce the inflation to 2%, or we should, cap the supply at 500 bill Atom or a bill Atom or whatever, or we should, institute. There's like so many things like around this, right? Like ways of sort of like reducing or changing how much supply gets into the market. That's actually not really the issue, in my opinion. The issue is the demand side. Who's buying the token, right? Who wants the token? Like you can bring the emissions to zero. If no one's buying it, and none of it matters, right? And so that's really where we're focused, right? It's on the demand side. So everything we do, everything that we have planned is designed to increase the demand for the token. So Eureka is a big example for that, right? So Eureka, the way that it works is no matter where it charges fees, even if those fees are in ETH or something else, those get swapped into Atom, so buys it off the open market and burns it. It is our hope in the future. And so you now have a structural demand sink for Atom that you can track, right? Look, $200,000 worth of Atom was purchased just structurally day by day, every single day. And so you meaningfully offset any of the sort of structural sell pressure. And then you hope that on more days than not, more Atom is bought than sold, right? And that increases the price. And I think that comes before any kind of massive changing in supply, because all of those changes carry huge risks, right? If you reduce the inflation rate of Atom or the yield on Atom, the staking yield, then you don't get all the free marketing that Atom gets on Binance, on Coinbase, on Kraken, on KuCoin, right? Where they say stake Atom with us because you get 14% yield. It's like a big banner at the top, right? Binance just did this for 6 months. Like they're marketing it because they're getting some of that yield because they run a validator, right? You lose all that when you get rid of the staking yield, and you lose like one of the main reasons that people liked holding Atom, which was that it was a yielding token. And so you need to do these things carefully, and you can't just snap your fingers, because you risk causing a huge sell-off, right? And a massive decrease in the bonding ratio. But it's much safer and puts you in a much more powerful position is increasing the demand side.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense, and thanks for sharing all these insights. I really never, contemplated it from this side, but it makes sense. All these big custodians are incentivized to, have high staking APRs, and in some way, it's also a unique value proposition of Atom since staking APRs are higher than 10%. But yeah, Brian, you want to share some thoughts or pose a question to Mac?
Yeah, I had a question. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, Meg. And thanks, Cito and Setmos, for putting this together for the community members. I wanted to go back to that in plus problem you were talking about with Eureka. I posted a question in the chat. I'm curious to know like how you're thinking about how to get other ecosystems to adopt, build, and maintain like their own integrations with IBC, because IBC goes up against like, the reason the bridges have won is because, they get paid really, really well to, to build the integrations, whereas the IBC Eureka is better UX significantly because it's so much cheaper. But that being said, right, it doesn't actually, provide like a long-term as sustainable revenue model as I guess as a bridge in the sense of like how much revenue it's going to bring in. So I'm curious how to solve that problem or what your thoughts are to get maybe the work like outsourced or have other teams work on it instead of just it all being done by ICL, like one integration at a time.
Yeah. So that's the right way to answer this. I think like one thing to maybe use as a data point is like how bridge companies work, right? So bridges don't pay chains to integrate. Chains pay bridges to integrate, right? Like you pay layer 0 to integrate. You pay them a lot of money to integrate, right? It's not like $0, or it's not even like $100,000. And so one thing is IBC is free, right? And it's actually an open protocol. It's not licensed, and it runs on your validator set, meaning that once you get it going, it's very easy to maintain, and it's fully decided by you, right? You can govern it yourself with your own validator set. And so it has very good properties in comparison to multi-sig-based bridges when it comes to security and things like that, and it's also a lot cheaper. It was missing for a long time, I think, a team that was willing to really push it into other places and make sure that it was easy. But I think the main thing that held IBC back is that, like, if you consider the reality that IBC was only compatible with Cosmos chains, how well did IBC do in Cosmos chains? Like, did fucking great, right? Almost like 100% adoption, right? It's like there's no layer 0 transferring from osmosis to the hub, right? Like, that's IBC. And the change now is that it's actually possible to extend it to Ethereum. And to places that it couldn't go before. So I just think it was never a reality that we could even compete because there was no actual possibility for it to extend that far. And now we can extend anywhere where there's a VM, right? And so that includes not just Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, XRP, Hedera, like all these places that just don't really have good interop solutions. And I think generally what like the good product wins over time. And I think in large part, there's going to be sort of like a big refocusing on interop in the Ethereum ecosystem, and you're not going to be able to have these bridges that charge all this money. It's just going to be too expensive. I just think it's going to win. Like there's no reason why it won't. IBC, that is.
All right, thanks, Max, again for jumping on. I saw that probably you ran a little bit over time. Highly appreciated for jumping on and sharing all these insights with us. I'm sure there are lots of good sound bites that we can put together and share with our community and a little later with everybody out there. So best of luck, and we're here cheering for you, the Cito community, Cito Zone, Crypto Cito. We are fully Cosmos aligned, so if there's anything that you guys want us to do, want us to help with, we are here to spread the news. And Michael, if you want to share some final words, please let us know. But thanks again, Meg, highly appreciate it.
Yeah, I also want to say thanks for joining and going like heavily over time. I know it's busy times for you, like busy as fuck, I guess, like with 10 things at the same time. So definitely appreciate that. We're always here for you. And like Winnie's saying, please save our backs. So yeah.
My bags too. So don't worry about it.
Right.
Thanks for having me. I would say if I had one request of you guys, throw a sick event with Cosmoverse. Very excited for it.
Yeah. Maybe as we get closer to it, we can do another of these sessions so we can chat about that as well. And by then, I guess there will be a lot of new exciting things for the hub. But yeah, feel free to jump off. Mark, I think Sepmos and I were going to stay on for a few more minutes. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, folks.
And yeah, I don't know, Sepmos, is there anything else that we didn't get to like touch upon, or what are your thoughts?